People who've seen someone get fired on the first day, why were they fired? Number 1, nurse who failed his drug test on the first day. He did the test days prior, we got results on his first day. He replied, yeah, I thought that might happen when he was told he failed his UDS. Just turned around and walked out. Number 2, new substitute teacher fired on day 1 for writing "Be Quiet" in Sharpie on 2 kids' foreheads. Number 3, first day, IT guy made his computer's desktop wallpaper a FB pic of a female coworker he had just met. Number 4, homeboy was allowed to play music on Bluetooth for the restaurant on the first day, went to the bathroom and started watching porn and forgot he was still on the speakers. Hilarity and dismissal ensued. Number 5, dishwasher. First day on the job, went on break and went to the bar next door. Took a while to come back, so chef went and found him. We needed a dishwasher bad and he was actually pretty damn quick at doing dishes. Chef gives him a second chance. Second day, goes on break again and stops at July 11th. Gets a tall boy of Mike's Hard and starts drinking it right outside the back door. We have a picnic table right outside our back door for staff to eat/smoke. Chef finds him again and fires him on the spot. Sad part is, my chef probably wouldn't have gave a shit if he was always drunk. It was the fact he didn't even try to hide it. Number 6, I was bartending at a sports bar in Hell's Kitchen. New guy training first day, supposedly several years of experience. He attempted to shake a Jack and Coke, and of course covered the bar in his mess. Didn't come back for day 2. Number 7, kid lied about his experience as a foreman and drove a skid into the side of the house we were working on. Forks straight into the siding, it was hilarious, lol. Number 8, worked in a chemical plant as QC. To make it short, I was one of the chemists who check if the products were good enough to leave the plant. A guy working in production came for his first day. He took his break and he lit a cigarette next to a 10.000 liters acetone tank. He was out before I could even blink an eye. Number 9, our town's prick mayor forced his spoiled prick son to get a job at a restaurant where I worked. On his first day of training as a host, the kid sat in the waiting area looking at his phone instead of standing behind the host's stand greeting customers. The trainer tried to sort him out a couple of times, but he'd just greet one customer, walk them to their table, then go right back to sitting. The manager came to talk to him. Then the kid says, I can't do this, and heads for the exit. They told him if he was going to walk off his shift he shouldn't bother coming back, and the kid just waved on his way out. He only lasted a couple hours. Number 10, he was a first-day blackjack dealer. He took in $5 cash and exchanged it for a $500 chip. The lady stared at him for a good 20 seconds, picked up her chip and left the building. Gaining took his badge shortly after. Number 11, pushed the emergency stop red button when there were signs everywhere saying do not push unless emergency. Corporate needs to perform an investigation before work could resume. Number 12, mortgage company, 2017, a manager hired in from outside, not an internal promote, meets his team. I am on it, probably only 4 to 5 people at that time, but one of them is a very well put together lady. She is younger than me, and I am younger than the manager guy was. She was super sweet and in no way interested in any office romance, let alone a guy probably twice her age. Literally at the first meeting, right after she introduced herself and said her name, he responded with, wow, you're a looker, we should smash. You'd like it. And then he 100% gave the rest of us a Michael Scott look, realizes what he has said is awful, but we just have to marinate in the silence that followed. The victim left the room, quietly, told the district manager in the next room over what happened, and the new guy was fired immediately after his welcome. Number 13, deli counters at supermarkets, the machines used to slice the meats? Someone got a job on said counter, and refused to use the slicer. Number 14, on my first day at Target another new hire jokingly jumped into the cardboard compactor and the boss sent him packing instantly. It wasn't on or anything, they just have a zero-tolerance policy when it comes to jackassery. We'd been on the job for less than an hour, so he made something like $6 total while working for Target. Number 15, the afternoon of his first day as a developer, he was noticed downloading the source code of our main product app from the source control system to a personal USB stick. Said he wanted to take it home and mess with it in his spare time. Edit, after some questions, some clarification. 1. This was after he'd signed the IT security policy to say he wouldn't, and they made sure people read it. 2. This was also in the mid-teens, in a company that really didn't like WFH. Our nearest solution was RDP gateway into an on-prem physical desktop, and that was mostly an extreme weather option. The chief exec hated the concept of people not being in the office. 3. They were a small-scale developer, organic growth from a two-man company over about 10 years, that suddenly had to ramp up to a much larger set of developers, partly to update the tech stack, and was hiring fast and starting fast. It took a while for infrastructure security to catch up. In fact, this was partly the incident that kick-started the catch-up, for, I don't work there anymore, average 20% below market rate pay really bites. Number 16. I was working at a large-scale architectural firm in the Bay Area in 2004 and they hired a new guy, and after his orientation and paperwork he finally gets to his cubicle. The first thing he does is puts on his headphones and blasts death metal, Cannibal Corpse, so loud that everyone can hear, and that's in using headphones. However, that was not got him fired. His first work item was to write a company-wide email that said Debbie Harry of Blondie was responsible for 9/11 and wrote about 30,000 words for it. I have never seen our HR manager run out of her office so fast. Number 17. Guy at fast food place showed up drunk and 3 hours late. Then he didn't clock in, just started working. When the manager asked him to clock in, he yelled. She was a tiny lady, so she called in another manager to help fire him. Number 18. We fired a 16-year-old girl on her first training shift of being a cashier when the manager caught her doing bong rips in the employee washroom on her 15-minute break. Number 19. She openly bragged to a manager she was amazed she passed the drug test. They even gave her the "yeah, I didn't hear that" line. She repeated herself louder. Number 20. New hire called in on the first day of orientation tells them she can't start work until next week. Quarantine, the day she was supposed to return to work with Dr. Note. Worked a couple of days, she called in again and said 2 weeks before she could come back to work. Hurt her back. She worked the first 2 days after her leave was up and called in the next day saying it would be another week before she could come back to work. At that point they had reviewed some security footage for law enforcement, unrelated, and caught her stealing. Not from the company but from another employee. She was fired. 2 days later her husband shows up to surprise her at work with a homemade dinner. Boss has to deal with it. Apparently she was telling him she was working a lot of hours for the last month and a half. Number 21. I was a bartender and it was his first day of training. He smacked my ass when I was bent over to get ice. I flipped out on him and he got fired in front of me. Number 22. Fighting with a customer by getting in their face and yelling at them. The dumbass thought the company owed him loyalty for being an employee. Oh boy, wait until he learns. Edit, for clarity, this guy was 100% at fault. He was damaging an item the customer bought. The customer politely asked him to be more careful, and that was all it took for the guy to snap. Number 23. My first day was also the first day for another dude, who showed up an hour and a half late. After being there for about 15 minutes and sort of starting helping me do the very first task we were assigned, he gets pulled into an office and fired. On his way out, he is walking past where I'm still working and he says they fired me for being late. I can't believe it. Do you think you can give me a ride? I laughed out loud and sheepishly said, sorry dude. I'm kinda working right now. He thanked me anyways and walked out the building. He accidentally did me a big favor because so many of my new coworkers saw that interaction and thought it was so incredibly hilarious, they all became immediately friendly with me to talk about it. Number 24. Fired an employee on their first day when I asked them to turn on their camera for a call, and it wasn't the person I interviewed. Number 25. Warehouse job right out of high school. Guy started hitting on the young lady that was our supervisor, and when she let him know that wouldn't fly, he started in with the hardcore sexist, misogynistic BS about how she couldn't possibly be good enough to be a supervisor of men, among a lot of other crap. He was gone before lunch.